Okay, we are on the air. We only have one item on our agenda for this work session because we do have an executive session after the fact. But for our work session, we have a council update on affordability, and I guess we have some other people at the table, but Emma's kicking it off.
I'm kicking it off, and I think we were just having a little camera issue, so if anyone's tuning in and you just saw the empty dais, we are here in the back of the room. Well, hello, council, and all watching us at home. For today's work session, we're going to be giving a update on our council goal around affordability. It's our quarterly update. The last time we were here talking about this topic was in September. Most of our goals have kind of one staff lead, but this one touches a lot of different parts of the city pie. So I am joined by Assistant City Manager Joseph Brilio, Public Works Director Peter Passarelli, and Finance Director Michael Osborne, who are kind of co-leads of the elements of this goal.
I didn't realize when we started that our council liaison is
a little late here, but we're going to talk staff stuff first, and then we'll get into council discussion, hopefully when Adam is here, or Councilor Koster-Abadi is here. So you've gotten probably pretty used to this this rigmarole by now, but we're going to start with looking back at staff accomplishments. Because this is our third goal, we kind of are going to look at 2 quarters. It sort of spans the different quarters, and then we'll look ahead at what's coming up over the next quarter or so on the staff side. Then we will turn it to Councilor Koster-Abadi to talk a little bit about the council accomplishments and plans. This goal, affordability encompasses a lot of things, and in our action plan, which was in your packet, you'll see that we really focus this goal on utility affordability and housing affordability as sort of 2 spheres that the city has the greatest direct influence on. So as you do this presentation, we've organized updates into 3 buckets: general actions, things that just kind of help us understand affordability writ large, housing actions, and utility actions. Joseph, do you want to talk a little bit about what we've started here?
I think we wanted to get this, the community survey off this before the year was over. We had to switch consultants because we used, I think, 3, was that their name before, several years over. It was time to update our consultants. So that created a little bit of a process to get through, and then we just got the scope finished, and we hope to launch the community survey next month and get that going in the first quarter and get that wrapped up to you in the second quarter to share the results prior to the budget conversations. So those will include a lot of the conversations that we've had around the community understanding of what resources are out there that the city provides when it comes to support for utility services, economic development, what type of resources we have, obviously grant programs, and then also fresh waste. Just get some feedback from our community. Most of the questions will remain the same because longitudinally you want to get those, want to see kind of how we perform every other year. So most of it will be the same, but a few will be changed. You'll see that go out in Q1 next year.
All right. On the utility side, let's see, Peter, you want to talk through some of the updates that are up here?
Yeah, sure. So last month, well, actually 2 months ago, October 21st, was here. Give an update on what they've accomplished over the last year and again, coming up in the future. We are continuing to work on our utility rate study for water and wastewater. In November, we had the rate consultant meet with our Community Utility Advisory Committee. I think it was November 3rd, and walked them through a couple different scenarios on water. One of the things I think I've mentioned in past discussions is, we're in this process of applying for this Safe Drinking Water Revolving Loan Fund, one of 2 sort of bins of funds available there. And we're including these in these rate revenue requirement scenarios to see what that does for the rates. So we had a discussion with Quack. We are continuing to work on right-sizing our Jen and I have been meeting around, so every Friday we can look at how we're programming these projects, what are the funds that are available, both from our utility funds, our system development charges, and the grants and other grant resources that we have. And we're really trying hard to make the program realistic in terms of execution. Sort of bounded by the financial resources that we have, but also the capacity of our staff to manage the projects. And it's tough to do because we have all these projects that we've identified and there are needs, and we're just prioritizing those and making sure that we're being realistic in terms of execution. So as an example, we've got a couple projects, Main Street, that we had programmed earlier in the 6-year CIP, but realistically, being able to do all that work, we had to spread it out over a couple of years with all of the other work that we have to do to manage that. So that has impacts on that work. And impacts to the rates, generally in a good way, right? So trying to spread that out so there's not large pieces there. We did meet earlier also in November, talk about the SAFE program with the council and the rate structure. We made a recommendation to go more with a program-based SAFE program. And when I say program-based, sort of focused on our SPOT program and Safe Streets Enhancement Program. And we're going to hold off on doing sort of going out to do another large function. So we're going to hold off on doing that. And then, we've been working with our finance team over the last year or so. I know Mike had mentioned with Quack last night about some impervious surface data that Amy is looking at how we can update that data in our utility building system that is more, reflects a more accurate picture of what our impervious surface area is out there, customer by customer. And we've done that by utilizing LiDAR data and using our GIS to update that information.
So like we have some places, especially in the NMIA, with a lot of unused parking lot, and they probably haven't been paying what they should be paying.
Well, we don't, I think we build based on the impervious surface area. Where we've had a gap is when there's a change to impervious surface area. Customers have come in and perhaps they've added more parking or removed parking or removed a building. So those are the things that we need to update, that we've captured some changes there.
Historically, you feel like we've had a pretty good measure of impervious surface.
With the exception of those gaps. And I would say there's a significant number.
Would you say, Peter, when we first set it up and put the data in, it was accurate? The problem is we don't have often the capacity or the SOP for how we're going to update the data when we are informed or not informed about a change in condition. So this is really that change in condition.
I was told the last time that we've got updated data was 2019. And Nick is working, I guess, next year in spring of 2026 is when he's getting the latest package, and it comes from Metro. And then, so once we get that, then we're going to work with Amy on rolling out to take the new data and put it into the rate system.
So how comprehensive is this? Is this just the industrial areas, all commercial activities, or the whole city?
Well, it's reflective of the entire city. We bill our residential customers at flat. So that stays the same. It's not really dependent on individual property, impervious surface area, but commercial customers.
Well, it wouldn't even make sense to do residential.
Yeah.
I will say that, and this I think will come up a little more in the council section, but we've heard you that you're interested in looking at incentives or potential rebates, that could be related to things like tree planting gets you a stormwater discount, something like that. But that's different than saying, this lot has a bunch of impermeable surface, this one doesn't. That just would be impossible for us to maintain.
Well, and commercial properties have an incentive to remove impervious surface area they're not using it, right?
Well, that's what I would love to see us, message out there is, especially along Johnson Creek, there's a lot of parking lots that are coming right close to Johnson Creek and that are not really used that much. And at least not the spot checking I've done over the last few years. And so maybe if there's some incentive for them to depave, I mean, that's the kind of projects people like to do. People love to come out and tear out pavement. So that's the thing we can even help them do. So
And even an organization called Depave
yeah,
that will help.
exactly. Exactly.
I just want to say before we move on from this slide, when we met with Councilor Body to prep for this, he asked a great question. He was like, how do you guys feel? Do you feel like we're doing the stuff? Do you think we're moving this goal forward? And I really appreciated something Peter said was, I know like some of this may be a little less sexy than the ECDEV goal or the Parks and Green Space goal, where there's these specific projects or a grant program. But I think what you've seen here is a philosophy shift, and I really appreciate all of these staff and their teams for, it's asking the question. It's really not just making the CIP the way we've always made the CIP because, it's better to be ambitious. No, let's really think about the ratepayer impact and really be realistic. Or, with the SAFE program, let's really think about it in that box of affordability. So it is having an impact. We appreciate the direction you've given.
I will say, just as sort of a small metric at this point in time, and it's not necessarily the final metric, but like when we look at our CIP, what we program in our current biennium for the 6 years, it was like $123 million of campaign spenders. And where Jen and I are at now, 52 over 60. So there's some.
I'm sorry, what was the first number?
About 120.
Okay.
And now we're like, we have about an 82 program.
And that's all
Fine-tuning everything.
taking projects off to a later date, or is some of that like using the revolving loan fund and stuff?
It's pushing projects out.
Okay.
It's also really sort of making, in some cases, we're removing projects from the mix altogether because they probably weren't necessary. They were something that were identified in a previous system plan, or a newer system plan, and that can say, no, you don't need to do that. Got a couple stormwater projects that popped up, and the work that we did on Greek had a large impact, reduced some downstream, need for some downstream projects.
Oh, good. It was nice.
Continuing on with utility stuff, this is, Mike, if you want to kind of talk about sort of the first three, those were really finance-led initiatives.
So, remember Amy came in and talked to everybody on September 9th about educated on how our utility billing process works, how what relief options we have with our low-income assistance program, how we're trying to keep incentivized, but he does a great job of telling the story of if people need resources that they're available, tells them about our low-income program and directs them also to resources outside of the city. She's really excellent at doing that. She sits outside my office and I hear the conversations that she has. And she's a real asset to the city in that. It takes a lot of patience and caring to have those conversations, and she does it very well. We talked about earlier too, updating code amendments. I think that's on for response. next month to come back and talk to you. That's about changing terminology in the codes from making it the third Thursday of every month that we do shut-offs to give it a little bit more play in when those come up, and also give more authority, I think, kind of to Emma to make calls on how we enforce those. Earlier this month, Judy, Amy, and I held the first utility billing assistance program night, and we sat up here. We had about 4 to 5 people that came in, and we just talked to them about how low-income assistance works, what options they had. It was, for me, it's really humbling because, I mean, 2 people came in there that really needed help, and Amy was able to talk to them and really direct them in ways to get resources. We would like to do this again. We were shooting for maybe one in the first quarter and then one in May, so that when the low-income renewals come in June, as people are getting on that and we're going through the renewal process, that we're lined up to have an open house to talk to people through it. We also thought that it'd be a good idea to have Glenn come in. Because I think he's a resource to the city that can kind of be a liaison to, Amy's more of somebody that you call. I think Glenn is somebody that can go out there and help people. So all those 3 things we've kind of been working on from the financial.
And then the last one on here, it says develop, it's really developing. We're, as part of our Working Smarter Together priority at the city, we continue to update SOPs so that, you know, we are more efficient at, as we talked about the impervious surface, updating customer accounts. I'm just really grateful to Mike and his team. You know, we've got 1 utility billing person for the entire city. That's something we may want to change next year, but it's a lot of administrative burden that falls on one person when a lot of things can be. I know you guys probably get sick of me being a broken record saying the administrative costs, but yeah, I'm all for making our system more responsive or adaptive to our policy goals. It all then takes kind of an operating procedure for how we're going to make sure that can stay up to date. So I appreciate your team working on the efficiency of that.
Currently, just so you guys know, she works between 45 and 50 hours a week doing all this. There's the actions of doing the billing, making the adjustments, but then there's the actions of customer service. And from my end, she is a superstar, but I have to like walk her back sometimes and be like, hey, you know, our expectations are we can't do it all, so we're trying to do it in a 50-hour time period.
Can't fix every problem.
Can't fix everything.
Can I ask before you go on, something you said triggered a thought in my mind, which is a little bit off topic, but not entirely. Katie has talked to us about the funding. We are working with the Community Energy Project. We have some funding to help people do retrofits. And the mention of Glenn was like, oh, does Glenn know about those? Because Glenn goes to people's houses and would maybe know if there are people who are needing weatherization or, you know, assistance in that way. And so I think it would be good to connect Katie and Glenn to make sure he has some info on that, at least just knows enough to trigger him, like tipping Katie off.
Yeah.
There may be a potential
Great point, Dan.
user.
Okay, so that's the wrap of kind of what we've done to date on utility, or in the last quarter on utility. Joseph, you want to talk a little bit about what we've done on housing?
Couple things. Let's see, we completed the affordable housing for the last quarter, and we launched the Sparrow affordable housing RFP. Yeah, so it is okay. So, as you all have seen, we did do the notice of intent to award Development Northwest that received the highest scores across the board. So we'll be moving forward with them. At least we have the next action is coming before you all, consent agenda. At least saying, please direct staff to have exclusive negotiations and develop an agreement between the 2 parties. That will be next meeting, and then several months of negotiating with Development Northwest on things we want. The project, and I'm happy to share this, and you'll see in the next packet that their application was great. Hopefully the best. Out of the three, we did receive 3 applicants, and they were by far, I can't say by far, because there was a really strong number 2 as well. But they were pitching 22 units, obviously ownership, which is amazing for that lot. And they have experience in a solid team across the board as far as the management of affordable units over time, across the community land trust model, and they're an affordable housing developer. So the types of things we would like. So more to come on that.
I think it was really great that we got 3, and I also want to give kudos to staff and to you all for raising the profile of this. We had 25 people come to our pre-bid required meeting, which I think kind of floored us. We were worried we wouldn't get maybe any bites on this. It's a weird site. It's got some constraints, but that was awesome.
Well, Councilor Koster-Body did a lot of walkthroughs with them. He gets some of the credit for that.
No, that's the easy part. It's just walking.
Well, and it's been years, right? It's just a big deal.
Yeah.
It is something to celebrate.
It is.
Before I got here, this was an idea I was kicked around to do. Shout out to Mandy Bird over there in the corner for really helping project manage this, and we'll continue to do so. But fingers crossed, everything works out in negotiations, and we can start working towards a real meaningful project that the city, the public-private partnership is powerful. So it should be a good story to tell.
Quick observation too about Dev Northwest. They recently did one just outside Milwaukie, and they worked on that T lot. So it was a very kind of restrictive lot. So it's good to know, because clearly they have experience on difficult sites. So I'm excited to see what comes of it.
Yeah. But thank you all for your direction and guidance through this process. It's been years coming.
Big milestone.
I wasn't here on October 21st, but there was a work session to discuss some high-density housing capacity kind of scoping. I know that the planning staff, they received a grant from DLCD to help continue to scope that. So you'll see more conversations around high-density housing capacity analysis soon, in the next couple months, I imagine. And there was also a work session on November 18th, Mandy and myself just began. We kind of scratched the surface on land banking, and we're going to bring it back to you in January to give it more direction. I feel like it was rushed, and so we're going to have to come back in January.
Okay, so now we're going to do a little look forward. What's on deck for the remainder of this quarter and the first quarter of the next calendar year. I'll kind of click through some of these fast because they're continuations, but we're going to do that biannual survey, as Joseph talked about, get that data collected prior to budget, which I think will be very helpful. We are working on the budget. It's definitely budget season, and incorporate all those directions that you've given us on CIP priorities, utility rates, and relief strategies. Councilor Koster-Body will talk a bit more about that in the council session. Continue that work on the stormwater impervious surface data, and then, as Michael said, we'll hold a second utility billing assistance night. And I think going to keep trying to grow that, keep promoting that, and make that a great opportunity for customer service. Joseph, there's some exciting housing stuff that we wanted to daylight.
Yeah. The president also is aware of this ask from Hillside, and then the mayor you sent around the Business Oregon Infrastructure Grant application. And even before you sent that, Hillside approached, I think, to be a willing partner in application. The Housing Authority is a part of it as well, but they can apply on their own. The state, this program doesn't allow housing authorities to apply, so it has to be a jurisdiction. Been working with the finance department to kind of figure out the administrative burden, but based on what we have looked at as far as capacity and ability to at least apply with Development Northwest, they would do basically the whole application. We'd be the partner to help to actually submit it, It's a grant, so it's a grant administration. They would be, that we would reimburse, so there's some administrative burden on it for our part, but be low for us comparatively to other loan, something to that degree. And Mandy Bird has experience with business-oriented grants, so feel pretty confident that we could support this, and just wanted to highlight it as a potential. So, I don't know, Council President, have anything else to?
Just hearing a bit about what they'd be able to do with this. For the next phase of Hillside, there are over 100 units of potential income for the council. So this is the act of bringing together funds, as you all know, for affordable housing is really tricky. But if our staff can look into this, I think that would be really, really helpful. So I would love if we could give direction for this. It would be a great move forward.
Yeah, it's there's $10 million bucket, so it's not a big bucket. The ask would probably be about 3.5 for, with the hope of getting like 2 mil to 1.5 mil for infrastructure. And what we've talked about with the Development Northwest team, related team is that this would help. Honestly, infrastructure is costly, but this would also help them build out the additional amenities that they would have to cut out, basically value engineer out, like solar arrays and outdoor green space. And some other pieces that are having community amenities. So seems like a low-hanging fruit and something is big.
So I'll just say that there's been a lot of chatter in the mayors, among the mayors about this, so I do think there will be a lot of applications, so get it in. Get it in soon.
And I guess that was, I mean, we do kind of need, because you're going to need a council vote on December 16th.
Yeah, we need to get conversation that you get with us. So.
Does anyone have concerns about this?
No, but get it in soon. Is it first come, first serve? Or is it just a competitive, like everyone?
But it's kind of a rolling thing, right? It's not like everybody by a certain deadline, or is it?
It's everybody by December 17th.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
Okay.
I just do think it's worth saying, since we talked about Merle at the last meeting, like when we shared, that we had some operational concerns about that program. I do really want to reiterate that from the staff and operations side, I mean, we are always looking for creative ways to incentivize and support housing development. And this, I think, is an example of something that is a little more easy for us to wrap our minds around in the near term for how we could administrate it compared to the revolving loan program. In the future too, but just kind of comparing, there's a lot of tools in this toolbox, and here's another tool that I think we could take advantage of.
Mayor, I do think this could have been, I don't know if it's going to make sense, but the Sparrow project, the timing, December 17th, and we don't really have a project, but certainly if it's not really awarded and they still have funds at a later date, it makes sense to apply for it.
Well, the council president would probably know better, but it's my understanding that there's a commitment to more funding, that this is just a first tranche, and there actually will be more funding next year.
I don't know if it was next year or next biennium, but it was my understanding that this is going to be an ongoing program, but we'll see. The legislature has said they're trying to pull back on programs that were just created. So we'll see if this is one that gets pulled back.
Fantastic.
The other look ahead items, I won't be here for some of these because I'll be off, but Joseph will lead you through our community development team, a work session in February, our forecaster, discuss SDC and other fee waivers. This is both an HPS item, but it's also a topic that I know Council President and Councilor Body asked that we talk about. So it kind of slots in nicely. In February, you've adopted the Affordable Housing Code, so we'll be implementing that. Continue all the work for Sparrow. And then it's kind of a bridge between economic development and this goal, but just a reminder, we are working on a review and an update of our business registration code. You may start hearing it is the season to renew your business license. So some notices will go out this week. That is the old code or the current code. So it's the kind of same old program, but we are working and we're going to do this business survey that's going to help us inform changes to that code for next year. And as part of that, one piece of direction you've given us is to look at the rental element of that. Right now, we register all of our landlords through our business license program. So if you have interest in either data collection or regulation or anything related to landlords and rentals, that is really our mechanism right now for gathering that roster. So we'll be looking at that as part of that VR code update as well. And we'll hold a follow-up discussion with you guys on that and on renter protections.
Hot dog.
Okay, that is it from the staff side. So Counselor Kay, you are on deck to talk a little bit about your accomplishments over the last, or your collective accomplishments over the last quarter, and then we'll go ahead.
Yeah, just to point some of this stuff out. We work on so many things that we can sometimes forget about all the good that we've done when it comes to affordability, or we're busy people, and so is our constituents. So this is a good reminder of a lot of the good work that we've done in a relatively short amount of time. That's going to be continuing. So obviously, we provided direction on our future of our SAFE program, going with that middle option. We are also looking at potentially other options. I met with Representative Gamba a few days ago and also talked to him about potentially working together on figuring out what another option would look like. Continue to advocate for affordability principles defined within the Budget Committee. Those were the 3 items that you see there, the strategies that we discussed with the Budget Committee that we really wanted to focus on. The review and potentially set maximum reserves for our water funds, realistic capital budget planning, not pulling an ODOT or the legislator, expand incentives and disincentives based on consumption behavior that could relieve costs. That's the relief program, which we already have most of the infrastructure in place for that, because we do provide a $5 discount if you come under a certain unit of measure. And hopefully we'll be able to potentially expand that. But I would like to definitely focus on getting it out there with letting people know education-wise that these things exist, because I think there's a gap there that I think we're aware of. I also think there's a gap there in between who can qualify and who can't, and it might be a pretty small margin.
Just on that note, just sort of for transparency of kind of timeline looking ahead. So February, your budget committee meeting is really about CIP, kind of final draft, look at the CIP. Once that's kind of set, that determines the revenue requirements we need. Then in March is when Peter, this esteemed crew, and actually it's kind of nice because it will be the next time this goal is up, we'll actually bring those rate designs to you. So the things that Councilor Koster-Abadi was talking about of like tiered rates that can both disincentivize high water use and further incentivize low water use. Like that's when it'll be in March.
Yes. Thank you, City Manager. Appreciate that. Yes.
So are those rates being brought to the quack beforehand, or like what's the community process for that? Because there are concerns that I would have. If you're a multi-generational household, are you using more water? I'd have faith in like quack to hammer out some of those details. Yeah. It won't be like March, we pass it next meeting, or I guess what's the process?
Peter, you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, all of them will utilize quack. So additional meetings for that group as we do every budget cycle to walk them through the revenue requirements and then designs. And we're talking about redesign. We're not talking about some of the water and the wastewater, because most of those other ones are sort of flat fees. So we'll have our consultant come and workshop with them some of the rate designs options that we can utilize, and they'll work those through and provide that. Hopefully by March we'll be able to have some initial discussions with council on what those look like, and then April and May into June, as it's sort of in parallel to our budget adoption, we'll be also coming to council with the fee schedule. So those rates, well, there's more opportunity for discussion as we're processing the fee schedule for each plan.
So QUAC meets monthly to look at that. You guys will start really seeing rate design stuff in March, and then you won't vote to adopt the fee schedule until that first June meeting where we also adopt the budget.
Okay.
I appreciate that though, because that is something to consider. Yeah. Any other questions before we go to the housing actions? City Manager Sager mentioned, we adopted the Affordable Housing Code incentives, which I'm very appreciative of that. We also celebrated some pretty big openings in Milwaukie that I think all of us in one way or another has had a role in this. I know Councilor Massey and myself, the Hillside Park, we recognize that one from our planning commission days. But yeah, short stack Milwaukie, those are houses, home ownership opportunities that are starting at 250. I actually did tour that site, walked through some of those houses, walked through one of their modeled, the mass timber built ones. They're really nice places, really nice spaces. And honestly, someone starting a new family or just getting their life started, that's a steal right there. Can't really find 250 for those type of houses anywhere. And then also Hillside Park, obviously that was a massive, not only improvement, but increase in affordable units that the city now adds to our inventory. So that's huge, and more to come on Hillside. It's not done. We're not done with that. That's a beautiful project, and obviously we all, I think, took some time to look at it and saw the community gardens, and that's going to be a real community there. So that's a special project. And then the stabilization center, which our heroic two council members, Councilor Savin Jordan and Councilor Massey, spent a lot of time working with the county on a good neighbor agreement and really hammering out and representing the city and what, not only what we care about in supporting something like that, but also what our residents expect the county to uphold on their end of the bargain. As we continue to work on ours. So I really appreciate that. Thank you guys for playing a big role in that and for really getting that off the ground. I mean, the governor came out for that. That's a big deal. Fancy. So very much appreciative of that because that's a huge need.
I have a question. I'm not sure who to direct it to. It's somewhat related. Is it weird? Are we going to get any feedback about how the stabilization center is doing?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not sure who we talked about that.
Definitely. Right now the meetings are continuing bi-weekly between city staff and county staff on that. So we get updates through that. We also, our law enforcement team is talking to them a lot. They fell off the calendar, but we kind of had some quarterly, we call them household services updates. I think that'd be a great thing to pencil back into the forecaster for 2026, Joseph, so we can bring those updates then. We're also probably due for Glenn's annual update on behavioral health services.
Well, and we never did get our update on the Milwaukie Heart Project and what's going on at Blackness Service.
Yeah. This presentation ends with the and then we had Culpa.
Sorry, I got us off track.
You're totally fine. I mean, you guys did the work on that, Dave, so appreciate you.
I appreciate that there's a lot of staff time that has gone into, really all of these projects coming to fruition, but it was a really big lift for the stabilization center, and I think a really big trust fall on behalf of 2 law enforcement jurisdictions.
Yeah.
So I would just want to go on the record really appreciating that.
Thank you.
Thank you for that, actually. And then we held a work session on tenant screening fee limits. I know that one was kind of left a little bit up in the air because we're still trying to do some research and gather some more information on how exactly that would work. But these are things that we all and the public should be aware of, that we're taking these things seriously. We're really trying to show that as a city, as limited as we are, we're really taking it to the limit on what we can do to really impact the cost of living. And then we also provided direction on the HDR zone analysis, land banking strategy, which we're going to continue that, and then the mural. And just to speak on the mural, because I do know that there's a lot of support in the community for the mural. I know I think there's a letter that the community members are signing on to for that. And I just want to let the community know that we haven't made a decision on the mural. I think we all take the affordability very seriously, as we've just listed out all the actions here. And all we've done is set the mural discussion for a future date, because that last council meeting was the first meeting we've ever had in discussing the mural. So I feel like the council deserves a little bit more time, staff deserves a little bit more time as well to find out the kinks of that. And that was a discussion I had with Rep. Gamba as well, talking about the Maroli, even inviting him to come and speak on behalf of that and allowing us to question some of the themes that we had when we saw that. So I just want to reiterate to the public that we're not turning it down. We're trying to get more information. And I think everybody knows that the way our city functions, we don't just make rash decisions on things. This council and this staff, this team, puts a lot of time and effort into making sure that anything that we do is at the benefit of the people we represent. So I just want to reiterate that, because at no time does this city ever sit there and think that affordability or affordable housing is not important. We've proven that over and over. Even prior to this council, the prior council to us proved that. Former Mayor Gamba proved that. Former Councilor Falconer proved that. Was actually current city councilor in Forest Grove. So I just really want people to understand that nobody is stonewalling the Merle, but there are some questions and there are some things that we just want to do our due diligence on. I'm just really proud and supportive of how the community is reacting to it, and that it's more of, there's a lot of support behind something like that as opposed to opposition. So I love this community for that, but just know your council is not in opposition. We just want to do our due diligence.
When there's some things changing on the state level, there's some new rulemaking, and there may be some opportunities to nudge the county as well. So by March, when we said we would come back to it, hopefully some things may look different.
Can I clarify there? I know staff have said it would add 2 FTE in the budget process. If we added 2 FTE to the Community Development Department to administer a program like this, is March, like, I know departments are putting together their budgets now. Is March too late to pull 2 FTE out of there, or?
No, I mean, you won't, our budget hearings begin in late April. It's challenging because those two, and that was a very finger in the wind too, with the limited information that I had, are not reflected in the organizational assessment we've already done to identify other capacity gaps.
Yeah.
So, no, and frankly, I mean, we do budget adjustments too. You don't have to, when we get direction and we need to reprioritize or ask for more resources, we have mechanisms to do that. So, but yes, I think it'd be tight. It'd stress this guy out, but we can, we look forward to the March conversation and the direction that comes out of that.
And it's another reason why I would like to invite Rep. Gamba here, because when I spoke to him, when him and I met, he was under the impression that the intent was to make it as easy as possible for cities. So he would like to see like what the lift is and see if maybe there's some revisions that potentially need to be made. So I think it would be great to obviously get him in before then. Just whenever he's got time. I don't know when that would be. I think there's some good questions there to be asked.
If that's a conversation that we want to have with him, is that a conversation that's better had then in January? So he could do an amendment to, I know there's a housing omnibus bill. That could,
I was thinking January too.
Something like that.
I haven't talked to him about a specific date, but I just figured January would probably be our aiming point.
Well, I think it would be good if he just looked at the YouTube, at the session that we had.
I think he did.
Okay.
When we talked, he had watched
the issues.
Yeah. And that's the thing. He had some questions on the FTE, and because, it was intended to make it as easy as possible for cities. So it would be great to just get more clarification. And he even said, maybe there's some revisions that need to be made. Yeah. Then general actions on the next, or actually.
Now we're kind of looking forward. So this is preview and discussion of the next quarter.
Are there topics coming up in anyone's assigned committee related to affordability we should all know?
Well, it's not in the assigned committee per se, but one conversation I've had recently, and it kind of ties to this affordability and kind of ties to the climate, is, we talked with Katie about a home energy storage equivalent for apartments. It's a potential thing to explore. I don't know how, I don't think that was necessarily prioritized at the top of Katie's work plan, but we did talk about it. I learned conversation recently that it sounds, and I'm trying to pin this down with PGE. PGE, by the way, is coming to our December 16th meeting.
I know.
So save up your questions for PGE. Okay.
Trust me.
But I learned that PGE may have data on multifamily bill averages. So it wouldn't be a full home energy score, but it would be an amazing amount of information for tenants to be able to get access.
that's true.
That the, apartment in this newer building, the bills are only this high, and then this older building that has no insulation or whatever, they're this high. So I'm trying to pin down what's available and how accessible it is. And if I don't get an answer, I will be asking PGE that. But anyway, so that's my answer to your question there.
Anyone, any other?
So the Kellogg team is coming, we have the date yet?
Next month, or next meeting, December 16th.
Okay. I got to roll further out because it will be in May. So there's obviously a big component there. So we'll have a conversation, that kind of thing. There have been some changes, and I'm not going to try to steal their thunder, but hopefully that it will, shed some light, because obviously you're concerned about the overall strategy,
Yeah.
which affects the whole project, not just the sewer.
Right.
And the station. So we'll hear about that.
Well, one thing that I think might be an intersection with what you're looking for is the business survey that's going out. And some of the questions really kind of get into cycles that businesses are experiencing and the things that are challenges for them. I'm looking back through
Nice.
through some of the questions.
Is that Dan?
No,
That's us. Oh,
Yeah, it's part of the ECDM goal.
oh, yeah. Nice.
So as the renewal for business license is going, or business
That's right, that's
registration
right.
is going out, we're also asking a few questions about their experience doing business in Milwaukee and areas that they would like some more support from the city.
That'd be great.
So one of the questions is, what are the biggest challenges you're currently facing? And, that ranges from employee retention to supply chain issues to increasing rents, economic uncertainty. It really gives an opportunity for businesses to give that qualitative, narrative of what's happening. And then we ask about seasonal highs and lows. We ask about utility costs as a financial burden for the business. If they are already connected or aware of Energy Trust resources, and if those are helpful to them. And then, kind of general, questions about, is there any way that the city can better support businesses? But we have so many businesses that are not only small, they're local. They have a small number of employees who are also Milwaukee residents. And there's a surprising number of women-owned businesses and minority-owned businesses in
really cool.
Milwaukee. It's really something for us to be proud of. But what comes with that is this, impending economic uncertainty. And I don't know how that's going to impact our businesses here. So hopefully we'll get some good information from this survey. Hopefully there's some response. There's incentive for them to fill it out because can I share this? So as part of when they've completed the survey, we're raffling off 5 business license discounts.
Oh, sick.
So that's huge.
Yeah.
It's a big cost.
That's a big deal.
Yeah, that's a big deal. So hopefully that will help us get some
I like
response.
that. Nice.
And then I think that, again, all the goals intersect because it has to do with housing security, it has to do with affordability, it has to do with how we're able to build out our amenities, all of those
Yeah,
things.
that's cool.
Anyway, so I just wanted
I'm
to
looking
add
forward to
that.
Yeah.
And so that
Really
you're
neat.
thinking about that as you're looking for more information too.
Yeah, that's gonna be big. You can get a lot of good information out of that, actually.
I hope so.
Yeah, I think so. So, yeah.
The only thing that I would have to daylight for folks, TriMet is in the process of doing their service cuts. They came and talked to C4 a little bit about this. Their initial lines that they're proposing to cut don't necessarily touch Milwaukie, but they have a few priorities for thinking about future cuts based on the community survey and a lot of research they've done. My computer just flipped, and now I can't see
No,
what it says.
cliffhanger.
Yeah, dun, dun, dun. But the priorities in general for this are reducing service when lines are really close together, shortening the max green line to be more an end-to-end connector as opposed to going through all the stops, and stop funding support for other transit agencies, which is separate from the funding support for county shuttle services. That was on kind of like a middle tier of things to consider cutting. These like three themes came pretty consistently across Washington, Multnomah, and Clackamas County, and across pretty much all the demographics they looked at. So I think that that is helpful. The challenge, and I think why I believe the affordability goal is transit is a really important lifeline for people who can't afford to have a car. The average car payment in America, I'll pound the table with this, is about $750 right now. And so when you think about that huge cost that people have to take on, being able to have some other alternative, I think that seeing these cuts are really, really challenging, and thinking about what we can do as a local government to be able to support TriMet, to be able to support the growth around transit stops that allows for these stops to be self-sufficient in the first place, and other things that we can do obviously at the state level. I think all of that helps because they're facing some really serious, tough decisions.
Who are our county reps to JPAC?
It's
Savas.
And,
Joe Buck.
okay. And you feel like they're advocating? I mean, usually Savas does a pretty good job of like banging that drum for transit investments.
Yeah.
But there's just such a breakdown of frequency of lines and availability of lines. It worries me, the conversation about changing the green line to end.
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't seen any data, I'm sure that they exist, but
Yeah.
you know, like that cuts off, that's a big, all right, focus.
Yeah.
There's either, you know, there's depth within that context, within that recommendation, like maybe most of the lines would be express lines, and that would get people up to employment centers faster, and I could see that change, you know, but doing away with the individual stops seems short-sighted.
I think, so I don't know all of the details there. I think part of that is the overlap with the BRT system we'll have with the Green Line service. But that's kind of me speaking out of my tiny, not necessarily knowing the details of what they have. I think in terms of our JPAC representation, so one of the lines that's being reduced in service in this cut right now is the 43 line, which serves Lake Oswego and Westland. And I know that those folks are really upset about that. So I think Joe Buck comes in, or Mayor Buck comes into these conversations a little bit frustrated by that. I know Commissioner Savas cares a lot about funding to the disparate transit agencies that we serve. So I think that everyone inevitably comes into these regional conversations with their local chip on their shoulder. But I think that they're doing a good job to pound the drum about this. It's hard because TriMet is facing these cuts because of a decline in ridership and just challenges. Like over 25% of people in Portland work remote, a totally different shift than pre-pandemic.
Yeah.
And there also have been challenges to see action happen at the state level to be able to support TriMet in these challenging times. And so it's hard to point fingers at the agency that has to do cuts because of all the things that are happening. And I think that it's just a really good time.
But yet the equity within those cuts is challenging too, because if you're looking at the intersectionality of populations that can work remotely and populations that use the Green Line to get up to an employment, you know, like node, I don't know that there's a whole lot of overlap. But again, I don't have the data. The Portland, I don't know what they're called now, the Business Alliance. They used to do a regional state of the, you know, I guess region, state of the region report. At one point, they pulled out East Multnomah County specific data. It would be interesting to see if we could maybe lobby them a little bit to see about doing some data for Clackamas County. Because the data that they pulled for, I mean, really, like, if you were to divide, I'm sorry, way tangent, but if you were to divide our county to the north, along 82nd Avenue, the inequity on the west side compared to the inequity on the east side is just so striking. You could compare the two of them and see, very disparate rankings. If you ranked them as like individual counties, there was some work done around that. But we haven't really seen Clackamas County level data around, work, commuter rates and things, have we?
I don't know. So I know some of the data again, speaking kind of uninformed here, but a lot of the work that they've been doing around or relevant to Clackamas County is looking at changes in traffic patterns. And they're seeing a lot more people commute suburb to suburb as opposed to the spoken wheel model of the past where people travel into the city center is happening less frequently. And so a lot of suburban communities are both areas with lower ridership, but also areas that are asking for more services to be provided so they can have that kind of outer rim connection. I think that
makes sense.
Yeah, that is part of what Mayor Buck and Commissioner Savis have been talking a lot at that table about.
And that's the conversation I hear a lot at the mayor's table as well. Like the mayor of Sherwood is like, I don't need buses going to Portland. I need buses going to Hillsborough, there's a fair amount of dissatisfaction, I would say, among the mayors with the responsiveness of TriMet and that TriMet is not proven to be very nimble. Like TriMet hasn't gone to anything other than big buses, and many transit systems run some smaller buses. So there's definitely some frustration, but I have invited TriMet to come talk to us. And after they announce they're going to announce some more cuts, some more proposed cuts in January. And I have invited them to come talk to us. So we should be having them probably in February.
That's good. Yeah, it's interesting you're talking about transportation. We just had a CAB meeting where the county's transportation staff gave us a presentation. I mean, they talk more about like how it works and the different buckets of funding. And they're not quite sure just how the cuts are going to impact some of those buckets just yet, but they know it's going to impact it. They're just not sure how. So.
Well, and there's such a county focus on the Sunrise Corridor right now. I hope that also pairs with an economic, enhanced area for jobs.
Yeah. Well, you would. Yeah. So yeah, and then the CAB, we're ironing out our needs assessment for the county. We're currently working on that, so that'll be a lot of good data for us as well, to find out what the trend is from the last needs assessment we did.
Before we move on to the next bullet, Counselor, that was really cool. I really liked that. And this is the first time we've kind of phrased the question that way. I'd recommend this be a question in every goal update. So you're on tap next, Joseph, for ECDev in January. I would do, are there any topics coming up in your committees related to economic development? Because that was just I know we do council reports, but we're already tired by that point. This was really great, rapid fire topical things that touch the goals. And I think it's a really good practice to keep going with.
You think, Counselor? You okay with that?
Let's do it. Let's start with it.
And then are we still interested in touring the Clackamas Service Center?
And this is the one where it's an Emma mea culpa. This is I was meant to reach out. I'm so sorry.
You didn't have to say that.
I know, but I need to
good.
own the Jewish guild, needs to. Yeah, but, so you want Joseph to reach out and schedule it, he can do it.
Yeah, can you, Joseph?
I was too busy working on the vending machine.
Well, then you're fine. That's what I'm saying. like, you're fine, keep working on a vending machine. Joseph, yes, I'm still interested.
Yeah, me too.
Gotta get that
Counselor
vending machine.
Scavenger has the email address for Celeste, who I
Yep.
think is the right person to contact,
Yeah.
so.
So she is, I think, still the program manager that's working on it. And I know that they had some leadership change there, but
And
she's still
she's the
building it.
director or acting
At
director.
the service center, they had leadership change?
Okay.
Well, yes. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Are there specific questions we want to ask PGE leadership on December 16th? Topics we've already shared, affordability and future rate adjustments, undergrounding, resiliency, electrification.
And by that, we mean, they wanted to have a pre-meeting with the mayor and I, so we did that and we kind of told them, these are 4 topics you better be prepared to talk about. But I think this is, if there's more or questions you want to start prepping to grill them with, think about it.
Well, maybe it's under the first bullet on affordability and future rate adjustments, but I would really like to tone in on how the rates are going to be divided between the data centers and the rest of the ratepayers. Because I don't understand it. Yeah. I think it's behind the curtain. And I'm skeptical when things are behind the curtain.
That does relate to the letter I put in for our council reports later today, because there's a PUC, I don't know, they don't call it a rate case because it's not specifically about rates, but there's a PUC docket number on that right now. And I've had a couple of conversations with some of the advocates. But yeah, it could be a very deep dive. But, I think it's important. I think that's an important bell to keep ringing. That centers should pay for them.
Yeah.
Well, there's a concentration of data centers here. And they're here for a reason because electricity is cheaper here than in most places in the country because of hydroelectric power. And so it's not unique here, but there is a concentration of data centers because, relatively speaking, power is cheaper than most parts of the country.
I think related to that, just talking about the implementation of the Power Act and what that will do to data center pricing. The other conversation, just transmission and the bottlenecks that we're going to have there as we move power east to west. I would just be curious for PG to talk a little bit about challenges that they're having there and what that might mean for pricing for consumers here.
Anything else? Okay. Or thinking up your questions within those categories.
All right, and then housing actions continued. Looking ahead at 2026, what information do we want to receive from staff regarding affordable housing development? Just so we can see, this is the affordable housing work already underway, and it's quite a bit. So, I mean, everybody should be proud of a lot of this, of all that work that's going on. Work discussed but not yet programmed. So, I mean, I'm not going to read every bullet point there.
I think this is, also our attempt to, sometimes, we know we send the forecast draft, the forecaster is big and it's hard and it's scary, but there's so, it's like, I think when we think about 2026, we spent a lot of time this year on this goal, getting the utility stuff kind of, discussed, refined, and that's, I'm excited that's going to get put into the rate structure, into the fee schedule, and then I think it's kind of off to the races. So I think the 2026 focus will have a bigger spotlight on housing. We know this is important to you. This is the stuff that's already on the forecaster in the blue box. And then actually Merle is as well. We put it in March to kind of revisit. But I know this is a topic of deep interest to many on council, and I think it'd be helpful to get some direction on other topics or focuses or concepts that you'd like us to be programming in so we can eat that time up now on the forecast.
I mean, that wouldn't include land bank strategy, right? Because we're already working on that. Because we haven't programmed it yet. It's not underway.
Yeah, you're right.
On the forecast.
It's on the forecast. It's a missing bullet under that HPS.
So it would go under that box. Okay.
Thanks.
Good catch.
I guess I have two things that I think about here. One is more a general approach as we look at shifting to do a lot of different housing pieces and implement our HPS. I think it's really important that we provide the consistent direction that staff, as they're thinking through all these things, are thinking about how do we build more units, especially really incentivizing units that are aligned with our other goals, the units that align with economic development goals. How do these units bring more deeply affordable units into our town? How do we align with transit and build around a system that we want to do? Just applying all those lenses, build more, build better. I think would be a really good focus for this next year. Second thing that I would say is we're talking a little bit in the HPS about SDC waivers. I think a really important conversation there is around SDC waivers for ADUs. We can get into the weeds more when we talk about that there, but an ADU is different than really a new development, a new middle housing development, or even multifamily development. And the SDCs are a real barrier to people, individuals being able to build an ADU for their family to come age in place or fill in the blank. So I think that will be important. The other loose end, we talked when Ilya came to talk in front of us a little bit about the housing models that he's working on and different housing options. There is a really great article in Sightline that talks about what this looks like on the ground in Portland. But the homes on wheels that he was mentioning have been a really important piece in the ADU landscape in Portland because the construction costs are just so much lower. And so making sure that we're not just legalizing ADUs, but also ADUs that are ADUs, but for some wheels on the ground. Yeah, that would be a conversation.
Yeah, I have a thought to that.
Yeah.
It poses a complication to have an ADU with wheels because it's not classified as a residential unit at that point. It's classified as like a mobile vehicle unit.
Yeah.
And then the code applies differently. The infrastructure to attach it to the grid applies differently. So in that conversation, what I would be interested in knowing is how we balance out the increased cost to make that a permanent housing unit. And if that neutralizes the cost savings in the creation of that unit. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that does. I think, can't speak to that. I'll send a Sightline Institute article that breaks down some of the costs.
Okay.
But I think that is, I mean, my impression from when Ilya came and spoke with us is the types of housing units that he's hoping to build in Milwaukie aren't legal uses right now. And so it is, like you're saying, weeding through the code to understand what barriers could be identified.
And I mean, maybe it's something that we have on a small enough scale where we're able to mitigate that risk and we can do some type of exemption for that particular type of housing. But I don't know enough about the restrictions for, or even the liability of connecting something with wheels to the grid versus, leaving it designated as something with wheels. So if we wanted to explore that, I think understanding the mechanisms that we have at play here and the creative license that we might have on our small scale to use that and bring that up to scale. I think that'd be helpful. I feel like that would be a good conversation.
Yeah, it would be. I think you could do it almost in a way that you do manufactured homes. I mean, if you remove the wheels and put on a quote unquote permanent foundation, right? Like then you're kind of just like dropping it off and setting it on a foundation.
So that's kind of what I'm looking at. You have some cost savings because of the way that it's created, but then you have cost increase to actually make it a permanent structure. And at what point do those things meet, and is that still cost effective? And if it is, then should we model something on our local scale that's small enough to be able to build some of that, or utilize some of that housing? But I mean, I'm just like, what I've heard so far is an argument for one side or an argument for the other. I haven't heard anybody actually bring it together and test it out.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Well, and I think we know that there's more and more different types of manufactured housing, not the traditional, mobile home, but lots of, what do you call them?
Modular?
Modular, thank you. Modular homes, lots of places in the Northwest building modular. And so is that a sort of mid-range option that can make an ADU more affordable for people?
Connex boxes too.
Yeah.
Because there's off of the 205, there's a company that builds ADUs out of those Connex boxes. Those,
They're by Oregon City.
yeah, and I wonder if, I don't even know if those are allowed here, the way that they're built, but it'd be interesting to see if maybe that's a simpler change. Also, for the affordable housing work, I would put, that's not programmed yet, because we're still looking at it, is the down payment assistance. Would that go in that box, or is that already on there? Oh, city administrative revolving loan fund. You just said it a lot fancier.
That's in our HPS looking at.
Dumb it down for me a little bit, Chelsea. Speak my language, man. I know, right? We need another acronym, yeah.
We have Milwaukie Heart, we have Milwaukie House.
We could just call that Carl.
Hey, I like
Carl.
Carl!
Carl. Sounds like a horrible program.
That's better than Merle.
Have you heard of Carl?
Yeah, that Carl and Merle.
And my other brother Larry.
They're on a bowling team.
Oh, man.
Good session.
Yeah, I don't if there's, I don't know if anything else goes
I
in.
think this is good. I think we can, what I took away from this, and we'll make sure everything you see up there is on the forecaster. We'll make sure we talk ADUs at the SDC waiver conversation that's on in February. I think we could put something else in there about like revisiting this unique housing models and code, well, cost benefit analysis of various things and code. You know what that means. Telepathy. And just this is sort of affordability, sort of not, but we do have a lot of follow-up things from the middle housing redux, one of them happening tonight, tree code. But we'll come back and talk FELOC. We talked about really needing a whole like study session on FELOC. So we'll get that slotted in. Filling up your forecast for you, bud.
Scary forecast.
I did have one just kind of minor comment on the matrix itself, which is one of the first slots at the top talks about the goal for how many housing units we have, the state set goal that the governor's team set. And it's got numbers for what we have to build by 2043. I really feel like we should have an interim target. We should figure out, 1/3 of that or 25% of that or whatever it is. And we should, because I think putting a number out there by 2023 is really hard for us to, or for just anybody who's reading it to. So I think I would pick 2030 or, whatever you think makes, but.
That's great.
Smaller bites.
Yeah. And on that note, since it's December, it's our last goal work session of the year. And again, conveniently, I'm not here for any of these, Joseph, but the next 3 work sessions that you'll have on goals, we're going to do like the annual metric review. So the front of our goal action plan are those big metrics. We haven't really talked about those since we sort of set them, but staff will be bringing back, here's what we found, here's how we're trending. And so that'll be a nice additional thing you can talk about in the first quarter.
Okay, that's it. I have to read the little script here. After the work session, council will meet in executive session pursuant to ORS 192-660, subsection 2D, to conduct deliberations with persons designated by the governing body to carry on labor negotiations, and subsection E, to conduct deliberations with persons designated by the governing body to negotiate real property transactions. And so with that, our work session is adjourned.
All that for the Arbor Day plan? All that for the Arbor Day plan?